A quick mic check, all viewers, just making sure the mic is working correctly and not having any issues. Hello, all viewers. Welcome to the 44th Kilo Chess India team battle. We are going to start within 50 seconds now. It's going to be a good tournament. We have a full house today with all the 10 teams participating, and we have four leaders from each team. So it's going to be interesting. Four leaders means four players, top four players from each team will be selected, and their score will be considered to decide the winner of this tournament. So it's beginning now. Let's quickly wait now for 30 seconds and then enjoy the stream for next 1 hour. All the viewers out there, just give me a thumbs up if the voice is clear, the video is clear, and you don't have any issues with the audio or video. So the tournament has started. Let's wait for the game to be displayed. And yes, we have the first game over here. Team Future and Chess Blasters are battling out in the first game. Luis from Team Future versus Super Bohemo from the Chess Blasters. I think Super Bohemo is from Spain, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, he's from Spain, and Luis is from Sri Lanka. So, an excellent battle going on right now. Knight f3, f5 d4, knight f6, e4. It's a gambit. It's a gambit that white is playing right now, and f takes e4. That is actually different. I have never seen this move, this gambit. I need to check which gambit is this. And white is just allowing black to establish a center and counter-attacking with c5. I think c6 will be played to. Okay, h6, knight h3 will be probably forced now. There is no other way to survive. And I think bishop takes h3 should be followed. Bishop takes h3, g takes h3, destroying the pawn structure on white's king side, and then playing e6 supporting this d5 pawn, and probably c6 can be played later on. So bishop e2 was played, bishop b4 check, knight to c3 and castles. Now the black king is safe. Of course, this is an open file where white will try to attack by the playing moves like bishop takes h6 now, as the g7 pawn is pinned. And now we probably can have bishop h5, bishop g6 kind of maneuver. Queen d2 threatening rook takes g7 now. Rook takes g7, king takes g7, queen h6 check, king f7, bishop h5 check, knight takes h5, queen takes h5, and the king will come back to g7, then bishop h6 can be played. So it's a draw, agreed draw. I'm not sure why the draw was agreed here. Queen e7, I think. Still, I feel that okay, so bishop rook takes g7 is not possible because queen is supporting, and probably it's a draw by agreement, which I am not happy about. They should have played the further game. White is in danger right now. So probably black thought of securing just some points and not to get on the losing end in this game. So let's go back, guys, and check the next game. Meanwhile, let me just share the live URL with all the viewers out there in the chat box of the tournament. Okay, so all the players can watch as well, the viewers out there. And let's pick up the next game now. We have a game between Pasindu and Nilebra. Nilebra is from Khelo Chess India. Pasindu is from RCC, that is Sri Lanka. So d4, e6, knight f3, d5, e3, g6, bishop d3, bishop g7, castles, knight to f6, knight to d2, castles, pawn to b3, knight to c6. I'm not happy about this move. Actually, c5 should be played first. After c5, knight c6, c6 should be played so that you have some chance of attacking this center pawn, white center pawn. And then probably now it will be difficult to play e5 because bishop will be sitting here and knight will go to e5. Black's e5 will be stopped, and this bishop will stay in its own house forever probably, unless he plays b6, a5, and bishop a6 challenging this bishop. Okay, let's see how this bishop suffers in the game, the c8 bishop. So bishop to b2, bishop d7, pawn to c4, pawn takes, knight to e7, pawn to e4, bishop c6. So bishop has gone to c6. It seems to be a good maneuver, but look at this knight. It's not doing anything right now. So as expected, white won the game, but let's check in what happened in the game. So bishop d7, pawn takes, knight e7, pawn to e4, bishop to c6. This is where I said that this knight is not doing anything. Probably knight can go to c8, come to d6, but there is no scope for this knight. Bishop has taken the knight square, but bishop is also not helping much right now because d5 is expected. E takes d5, e takes d5, and this bishop is again a dead piece on d7, as well as this bishop will open up now to go on the g7. So queen e2, a6, rook to d1, pawn to h6, pawn to d5, pawn takes, and bishop. I think bishop should have been exchanged here because then e4 pawn would be the weak link in the white's camp. By playing rook e8 and rook to e4 attack, black can get some play here. So bishop b5, of course, black white will get the pawn, but then rook can capture the pawn on a2. For example, bishop b5, bishop takes b5, a takes b5, queen takes b5, rook takes a2, and then queen takes b7 can be played. So that continuation is possible, but uh, I'm just thinking about knight takes d5 if possible, because then yeah. So then rook takes b2 can be played, queen takes b2, and knight takes d5 is an option, so that this bishop gets a discovered check on this queen on b2. So that bishop e5 was a reasonable move and could be considered. So bishop went back to d7 now, pawn to e5, and this d5 pawn is gone. D5 pawn was sacrificed. Why was it sacrificed? And knight to e4, just to get this knight on e4, and to f6, this pawn was sacrificed on d5. So knight to f4, queen to e3, knight takes d3, rook takes d3. A good move because now this pressure will be piling up on this bishop by rook d1. So bishop f5 is, oh, the queen is given away. A free queen. Rook takes, knight f6, bishop takes, pawn takes, knight moves, and I think, yeah, that's the game for white. So blunder by black here, not the best of the games. So black has to improve. He has to avoid all these threats. He should have played queen c8 here. Queen c8 was better because then in case of rook to d1, this bishop can come to f5 and try to exchange on this e4 square. All's well, let's go back to the tournament and check the next game. We have Janita versus Alauka. What is this? Alauyaka. Alauyaka is from Sri Lanka, Team Future, and Janita is also from Sri Lanka. The game is over, but let's quickly check what happened in the opening. E4, C5. This is a Sicilian defense. C3. This is called as an Alapin attack. This is the Alapin opening from the white side. So when e4, c5, it is called a Sicilian defense. c3 is played, it is called as Alapin in Sicilian. Knight to f6, pawn to e5, knight to d5, pawn to d4, pawn takes d4, pawn takes d4, knight to c6, knight to f3, pawn to d6, pawn takes d6, queen takes d6, bishop to c4, bishop to g4, castles. And now I think d4 is hanging. No, d4 is not hanging because bishop takes f3, queen takes f3, knight takes d4, queen takes d5 is possible. So hence e6 is played first so that the d5 square is supported by the pawn, and now bishop takes f3 is available. So bishop to e2, making sure that bishop takes f3 is made by bishop takes f3, and this queen is supporting the d4 square. So bishop to e7, knight to c3, castles, knight to e4. This is a nice maneuver, guys. This I like this move. Knight c3 and knight e4. In most games, actually, when this pawn is not under attack, knight d2 and knight e4 is played so that this knight doesn't get exchanged with this knight, and it comes safely to the queen side from king side from this maneuver d2 and e4. So knight to e4, queen to d8, pawn to h3, bishop goes to h5, rook to e1, rook to c8, knight c3 back. I am not happy with this move actually. This was better on e4. Okay, so knight c3, and this will give actually black some breather now, some chance, some time to capitalize on the queen side. Yeah, knight b4 is coming very soon. So knight takes, if knight is on c3, knight takes c3 will be played. Pawn takes c3, and this knight from b4 can then go to d5 and attack this c3 pawn. Okay, so a lot of arrows. If you're confused, sorry for that. I am putting a lot of arrows on the board. So knight c3, knight to b4, pawn to a3, knight takes c3, b takes c3, and knight d5. This is how you create a weakness in the opponent's camp and make sure you attack it with the maximum pieces. So probably bishop d2 is playable, but I think knight takes c3 is inevitable. Probably c4 was a try that white could have played here, but c4 can be met by bishop takes f3, and if bishop takes f3, then rook takes c4 can be played. If c4, bishop takes f3, pawn takes d5, then bishop can capture the pawn back on d5, and then this white will be left with this isolated pawn on d4, which will be easy for black to attack thereafter. So c4 is not possible. So bishop d2 was played. Knight takes c3, bishop takes c3, rook takes c3, and queen to d2, attacking this rook, hanging rook on c3, queen to a5. This is the threat now. So queen has to be taken care of. It won't be simple. Rook to c1, rook to c8, rook takes, queen. Okay, so black wants a queen exchange here because look at these pawns. This pawn and this pawn. These two are weaknesses in white's camp. And if black is able to attack these pawns after the queens are off the board and get them for free, then the ending will be in favor of black, as black will be having at least one or two extra pawns here. So white is avoiding the exchange. White is avoiding to go into the end game, making sure he has maximum pieces on the board to develop a mating attack. Bishop takes a3, another falls, another pawn falls from the white's camp. g4, bishop to g6, and I think h4 or f5 will just destroy this castle right away. So queen to a4, bishop to e4, queen to d1. So just repeating the moves, and white is not trying to get any advantages. So bishop c3, rook to e1, then queen to c2, king to g2, rook takes, queen takes, queen takes queen, rook takes queen, and this is what black wants actually. White is lot better here. Sorry, black is lot better here. Black is having extra pawns and two passers on the queen side, A and B passers. So rook to c3 now. Black just has to make sure he takes care of the back rank weakness and not get a checkmate there. So rook to b1, bishop takes b1, and I think that's the blunder here from white side, giving away the rook for free. So let's go back to the tournament and check the next game. I hope you guys you got at least basics of the this opening Sicilian Alapin, so that you can try out in your game, or even if you're playing Sicilian and someone tries out Alapin, you can check this variation of knight f6. So let's check the next game. Kaushal Vyas is playing. We have Smith Mystery and let's check this game. Gujarat Lions and Black Knights are fighting out today. So Black Knights, we are happy to have Black Knights because Black Knight is the team which played with us for many days about few weeks back, and they are back now with their full strength and they're playing good today. Hope they could make good results. They get good results today. So e4 was played from G Chess Assassin. Okay, so that's the ID JL, not GI. So JL Chess Assassin. Okay, from Black Knight versus Smith from Gujarat Lions. So e4, c5, again a Sicilian, nf3, e6, nc3, d5, e takes d5, e takes d5, d4. And this is again a kind of setup wherein black is left with an IQP here. So e6 and d5 is one of the major breaks in Sicilian. But if you are not comfortable playing with this isolated, because this pawn is going to get exchanged sometime in the game unless black plays c4. And once this pawn is exchanged, this is going to be the isolated queen pawn in black's camp. So white would just play knight b4, knight b5, and knight b4, knight b5, and knight d4, and just blockade this pawn. Don't allow it to come ahead. And at the same time, he can just play bishop to e2, castles, and then bishop f3, trying to attack this d5 pawn. So that's the strategy is. But if you're playing this line from black side or white side, just make sure that you know how to play with the IQP. Okay, so it was a draw again, but let's quickly check what happened in the opening. Knight f6, pawn takes, bishop b5 check, bishop d7, bishop takes d7, queen takes d7, castles, bishop g5, and all the problem lies on this isolated pawn now. That's where the game would turn. So bishop e7, bishop takes, and rook b1. The reason is that knight takes d5 is now possible, but it can be met with bishop takes b7, b2, and then probably rook to b1 will be played. Bishop can go back to f6. No, because knight takes f6 is possible. Bishop e5, no. Bishop e4, d4, no. So bishop e3 was the only move remaining there. So knight d5, bishop takes b2, rook b1, uh, bishop to a3 is forced, and after bishop to a3, I cannot find any good move. Knight e5 is possible. Yes, knight e5 is possible. But it would again be so it has to be calculated. It's an interesting variation, guys, wherein knight takes d5 is played and bishop takes b2 is allowed, followed by rook b1, bishop a3. So you can pause and analyze your game. So right now we have rook to b1, bishop takes c3, pawn takes c3, knight to c6, queen to d2, rook to e8. We have rook to e1, rook to d8, defending this isolated queen pawn now. So knight to d5, knight to e5. This black knight is going to swing to g4, and then he'll try to develop a mating threat on h2 square by playing a move like queen d6 or queen c7 or similar. Probably queen won't be able to come on e7 right away to come the square, but it can be played to d6 and then to h6, probably trying to exchange the queen and develop a mating threat here. Okay. Okay, so I can see a comment from Sweat Decoy. Hello, Sweat. Hope you are doing well. I can see your comment. Do you talk to chat? Yes, I talk a lot. I do a lot of commentary. I do a lot of chatting as well. I am open to questions. Sorry, viewers. You can post your questions in the comment section below. I would be happy to answer all of your questions. You can also join our WhatsApp group. The link is given in the description box. And if you have any suggestions, we will be happy to entertain them. So right now this is a position knight to e5 has been played by black, and we have queen to f4. Let's go into the full screen mode for a better view. Queen to f4, knight to c4, knight to f5, and then queen to c6, knight to e7 check. This is a miss from black side again, this allowing this knight e7 check. Queen c6 is a blunder here, actually. Knight e7 check, and then rook takes e7, rook takes e7, and you lose the exchange. Then again queen can attack the f7 square. So knight e7, rook takes e7, rook takes e7, and knight to d6, supporting the f7 pawn now. And I'm just wondering if rook takes b7 is possible. Yeah, I think rook takes b7 is possible here, if I'm not wrong. If rook takes b7, queen takes b7, then rook takes b7 can be played. So queen takes b7 is not possible. If rook takes b7, knight takes b7, then there is a mate on queen takes f7, king h8, and queen to g7 check and mate. So I think it was check and mate, or white would have got a good attack after rook takes b7. He should have played rook takes b7. Okay, so let's see. Then we have rook b e1 instead of that. Rook b7 was better, I feel. So pawn to h6, queen to b4, pawn to a6, queen to b3, pawn to b6. I think this is where white lost it, and white lost his attack and just tried to play very passive here. And that's what led to a draw finally. Yeah, it got a perpetual. So that's a draw, but I think white missed a winning chance here where the rook takes b7 was possible. This move, rook takes b7, I think would have been a good move. There would be have been a battle between queen versus knight and rook, but I think white would have got very good attack with h4, h5, h6 here. Okay, so Mr. Ferris says hi. Let's go back to tournament meanwhile. Hello, Mr. Ferris. Hope you're doing good, safe and sound at home. You're playing today, Mr. Ferris. We can analyze your game if you want. Then let's check who all are. So Gujarat Lions are back today on 26 with at the first position. They are back with a good score after many days actually. And there was Nikaru Hakamura playing from this team, but he's missing from few days. His rating was 2200, but he's missing from few days. We have Chess Blasters on 25. We have Super Bohemo, Kagua Master, all the leaders from Chess Blasters playing very well. Ray's Rishi Singh is always on top from Ray's team. Then we have Golden Castle, Chess Club, Khelo Chess India on 5th. Gavish Chutan is again a very good player. Team Future is from Sri Lanka. Luis is a new player today. So good to have new players. RCCA is again from Sri Lanka, guys. They are also playing well. Jamshedpur team A are one of the winners. So we not use, I was just trying to read this name, but Jamshedpur team can prove their dominance again today if they play well. And Black Knight and Kolkata Dragons we need to check because there is very less participation, and there were other teams waiting to play. Okay, so Black Knights is again they are back with full strength. They were playing few weeks back, and let's now go to the games and check few of them. So let's check this one, which is in progress. So Ronak Mistry is from Gujarat Lions, while Super Bohemo is from Chess Blasters, the Spanish guy. Super Bohemo, d4, knight f6, knight c3, pawn to e6, pawn to e4, pawn to d5. Let me just refresh this page. It's okay, and this is actually a, French defense transposition, e4 e6, a main line of French defense, wherein there are a few options here wherein black can play either knight f6 or it was again a draw. I'm not sure why players are agreeing to a draw here. So knight f6 can be played here, or bishop b4 can be played, or d takes e4 can be played. There are a lot of options. So before, suppose this knight is back on f8. So first variation that black can play is d takes e4. That is called as Rubinstein variation. It is also a very good move, a very good variation. You can play a lot of the games here. Of course, it's not an aggressive opening, the Rubinstein variation, but you get a lot of solid games, tactical games, positional games in Rubinstein variation. You can try that. So the main line goes e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, and then we are discussing the options for black. D takes e4 is the first option. Then the next option is bishop to b4, which is called as the Winower variation. And then we have knight f6, which is the old main line of French defense, which has happened in this game. So e5 was played, knight to e4, and bishop to d3. Knight takes c3, pawn takes c3, pawn to c5, queen to g4, pawn to g6, bishop to g5, bishop to e7, pawn to h4, pawn to h5, queen to g3, bishop takes g5, h takes g5, pawn to c4, bishop to e2, knight to c6, rook to b1, pawn to b6, pawn to f4, queen to e7, knight to f3, bishop b7, castles, and it was a draw. I need to check why people are actually accepting the draw in the early middle game. This is not the good way to conclude the games, but I think white is still better here because white has light squared bishop. Look at this light square bishop. It's a dead bishop on b7. This bishop is certainly better. I need to check why people are accepting the draw in such middle games. Okay, so let's go to the next games. We have SM Boricha and Team Future Lewis, or we can just check this Doraemon's game. Okay, this is a new player from Gujarat Lions, Doraemon. So Kagwa Master from Chess Blasters and Doraemon from Gujarat Lions, NF3, NF6, D4, D5, G3, G6, Bishop G2, Bishop G7, Castles, Castles. This is a symmetrical opening, guys, wherein both players are trying to make the same moves and trying to get into a symmetrical position. So C3, Rook E8, Knight D2, pawn to C6, now Rook to E1, Knight D7, Knight takes E5, D takes E5, Knight to D7, pawn to F4. Now this is kind of a crooked pawn structure. This pawn's on E2, but if you are able to push this pawn and get it exchanged with the d5 pawn, then white can have some chances, or he can put the pawn on e4, and if pawn 2 comes to d4, then f5 break would be something which is interesting. So pawn to e6, knight to f3, pawn to c5, pawn to e4. Yeah, e4 is something that I was just mentioning. So knight to b6, bishop to e3, and c4. C4 again is interesting because if you look at the position, you should not be playing c4, because after playing c4, you are just locking out your bishop. There is no way that this bishop can breathe now. It will be just quarantined inside this b7 and a6 squares. There is no way it can come out. This bishop is just trapped. Okay, so whenever you're playing the moves, just make sure that you don't give away such critical squares. So I know that this is possible, but even then, putting the bishop on b7 and getting this diagonal will not be easy for black. So just make sure that this moves you avoid, and think about your minor pieces, where are they going to go. So knight to d4, bishop to d7, king to h1, rook to c8, queen to d2. Now this is the threat sometime in the game, that bishop h6 can be played, or even rook takes rook to d1 can be played here. So knight to a4, rook to d1, pawn takes e4, bishop takes e4, knight to c5. This is actually a good maneuver, guys. Look at this knight's maneuver. Knight to a4 and knight to c5, controlling this e4, d3 and b3 squares. It's a nice maneuver, guys. You should learn from this knight maneuver. So knight to a4, rook to d1, pawn takes e4, bishop takes e4, knight to c5, Bishop to f2, and I think this bishop should not be given away. This is the bishop which is a strong bishop that white has. White should not give away this bishop. He should have just preserved this bishop, because this bishop cannot be challenged by playing bishop c6. No one can challenge this bishop right now. If it comes back to g2, if bishop c6, knight takes c6 is available, so this bishop will remain unchallenged throughout the game. But giving away such a strong piece is not a good idea, guys. So knight takes e4, rook takes e4, and queen c7. King to king to g1, just avoiding all kind of pins and threats here. Probably now rook can go to d8, pawn can go to b6, bishop can go to c8, bishop can come to b7 and be a strong piece in this diagonal. This is how black should play now. Take that advantage of this bishop, and as light square bishop is absent in white's camp, all these squares, this diagonal is actually weak. So this bishop should now go to c8 and to b7 to get a good attack on this castled king. So bishop to f8, knight to f3, allowing bishop c6. That's not a good move. Okay, rook to e3, and white is actually going into a shell. It is going into a defensive mode suddenly after giving away this bishop. And look at the bishop. This is going to come on c5, and both the bishops are suddenly become very active. So white has actually wasted his attacking position by giving away this e4 bishop. So bishop to rook to d8, then we have bishop to d5, rook to d2, bishop takes, rook takes, pawn to b5, queen to e1, queen to b7. I think it should have been reversed. Bishop should have kept on 8 and then queen b7 should have been played. So rook to e2, bishop h1, queen f1, stopping the mate here. Bishop to f3, rook doubles in the d5, rook takes, and now bishop to d5, pawn to h4, pawn to a5, queen to h3, pawn to b4, bishop to e1. Now this is opposite color bishop ending, and remember guys, in the opposite color, always the player who attacks the king with the bishop wins. Right now black is in the attacking position with the bishop on d5. It is attacking the castled king, and probably black is going to win this one if it doesn't lose on time. Okay, let's go back and check the next move. So pawn takes c3, bishop takes c3, pawn to a4, pawn to a3, queen to b3. Now this, there is an entry here on c2, queen to f1, queen to c2, queen f2, queen check, queen f1, queen bishop queen e3 check, queen f2, queen check, queen e3, queen e1, and again queen c2, queen d2, queen b1, and just this is going to be a close battle. I think black is going to lose on time. Yeah, black lost on time, but a good battle from black, and not so good middle game from white. Actually, white gave away most of his attacking pieces and ended up in a bad position. So this is what we already saw. And here sacrifice was given on d5, rook takes d5, e takes d5, queen takes d5, queen b1 check, king to f2, queen c2 check, king e3, and queen b3. Queen b3 is not necessary actually. What can be planned here? Probably queen to h2 was a good move, then threatening queen takes g3. So if queen h2, queen f3 is expected, and after queen f3 we could have played rook to d8. Threat was to play rook to d3 check. So I think queen h2 was something that black should have considered. Okay, and if king take king to f3, then there would have been a skewer on h1. So this check and queen will be gone. So king had no chance to save this g3 pawn. It had to be saved with the queen only. And then after queen comes to f3, rook d8 was the option to come in the d3 square. So the game is over now. Black lost on time. It was a nice battle. Let's go back to the tournament, check the next game. Meanwhile, all the viewers out there, I cannot see any new questions. I can see Mr. Ferris saying Chaitanya B. So, Mr. Ferris, I guess that's your name, Chaitanya, if I'm not wrong. If you're listening right now, you can reply. And let's pick up the next game. What we have here? We have Janitha and Super Bohemo playing. We have Kawal. Let's check Kawal's game. Kawal is again a good player from Khelo Chess India, and we have Vishal from Gujarat Lions. Vishal is also a very good player. So e4, e5, knight f3. We got an e4, e5 after a long time, guys. So this is going to be interesting. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4. Italian game. Knight f6, castles. Bishop c5, pawn to d4. Aggressive move from white side. Knight takes d4. and knight takes d4 and bishop to g5. I think this sacrifice is not worth giving away this d pawn for free and not getting anything right away. So knight to e6, bishop takes e6, f takes e6, pawn to f4. Now this would be interesting because now black would be having this open f file and white also will be having an open f file. It would be a full-fledged attack in this f file now. So h6, pawn takes e5, pawn takes, oh, g5, pawn takes f6, and this is, I think it will go in black's favor, this attack. Okay, so knight to c3, queen to e7, queen to d4, rook to h6, rook to f2, rook f2, I'm not sure. I think, yeah, okay, rook f1 was plan here, so hence rook f2 was played. So rook f1, pawn to e5, queen to d5, and c6, queen check to g8, king to d7, queen to b3, pawn to b6. Rook now comes to the d1 square from it's deviating from this attack from f6. So then we have bishop b7, rook doubles on the d file, and f5, an excellent move to support this pawn from the 6th rank by the rook on h6. Pawn takes f5 and rook to h8 attacking the h2 pawn. We have h3 and now g4. Rook to d3, pawn takes, knight to e4, pawn to d5, and now this, I think this center should be good for some time until the c4 comes, or there comes some sacrifice on d5 like knight c3, knight d5, or on f6 or something. So let's check what happened in the game. Pawn to f6 was played, queen to e6, and then knight to g5, queen takes g5, knight takes h3. So here, what do we have here actually? Can we play d4 and then can we play c6 so that this bishop becomes super active in the diagonal? That's the first move that comes to my mind, d4 and pawn to c5. Strengthen this bishop on b7 and get a mating attack on this castle king on g2 square. Okay, but black had other plans. Black played rook to b8, then rook to f3, queen to g6, and then rook to d2, pawn to d4. Yes, now black is making sense. Queen to f7 check, king to c8, rook takes, queen takes g6, rook takes g6, and rook to f7, pawn to c5. Yes, now there's a triple attack on this pawn. The bishop has opened up, and both the rooks are attacking the g2 pawn. So this is where the current position is, and white is in a difficult situation right now. White is going to defend this g2, and what is the way to defend? There is no way to defend. Rook e7 he played, but now g7 is free and knight is hanging. There's a discovered check, a lot of things happening on the board. Okay, so Chaitanya, I can see Chaitanya B is your LiChess ID. Okay, Chaitanya, we will check your game after this one. Let's try to find your game. Rook takes g2, and I think this should be winning for black now. Black has a couple of extra pawns. He has this exchange up. The knight is trapped right now, so it's losing for black. So anywhere the knight goes, knight cannot go to g5. Yeah, and now rook f8 is winning for black. Okay, so white resigned here. Let's go back to the tournament and try to find Chaitanya's game. If Chaitanya is playing, Chaitan. Chaitanya, you're not playing right now. If Chaitanya, if you're playing this tournament, we can analyze your game. Okay. So any viewers who are playing this game, just let us know. We can analyze your game by searching your ID. So let's check the next game. We have the Jail Chess Assassin versus Rio. Rio is from Rio is from Gujarat Lions actually, and he is from which country? He's from Russia. So we have Russian player playing in Gujarat Lions in Khelo Chess India team battle against. We have the jail chess assassin from India, Black Knight's team. Let's quickly check what happened in the opening. E4, c5, knight f3, e6, pawn to d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, pawn to a6, knight to c3, queen to c7, bishop d3, knight to f6, castles, pawn to b5, pawn to a3, bishop b7, and rook e1. So all focusing on this e4 square. Knight is attacking e4, bishop is attacking e4. Knight is defending, bishop is defending, rook has now joined the party to defend. So it's all about the e4 square. Pawn to d6, bishop g5, knight d7, and king h1. King h1 here is again something that we have to think, because f4 is what white is planning right now. Okay, so bishop e7, pawn to f4, pawn to h6, bishop h4. And can we play knight to e4 now? I think knight to e4 is in place. Knight to e4, bishop takes e7 is not possible because of knight takes f2 check and knight takes queen. So knight to e4, and if knight takes e4, then we have bishop takes h4, recovering the piece and getting an extra pawn on the e4 square. So I think knight takes e4 was on the cards. Knight takes e4 should have been played. I think that's a tactic missed from black side. Black has played rook to c8, and then queen to f3, castles, rook to d1, rook to e8, bishop to f2, knight to c5, queen to g3, and pawn to d5. So d5 break is something which generally comes in Sicilian, and all players have to be on their toes when you are playing Sicilian defense. That d5 break should be played at the correct and the precise moment. Okay, and just a minute, we have some. Okay, so Saksham, I can see your comment. There's can you host the videos in Hindi because many of the players. Okay, so Saksham, this is for all the nations we have. So Saksham is asking if we can do this commentary in Hindi. So Saksham, I used to do that before, but there was very less response, so we have switched to English now. We have audience from all over the world. There are people watching from USA, Canada, and there are also some South American countries who watch our live broadcast. So currently we have to follow English. Okay, so pawn to d5, pawn to e5, knight to e4. So this is again a good setup for black. This e4 square is being controlled once by a pawn, then by knight, then by bishop, and everything is well settled here. f5 is something that black white should consider very soon here to get a better attack. So bishop takes e4 was played, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, pawn takes e4, and now f5. Yes, f5 attack is played immediately, and that is this is how white should play. Bishop to f8, pawn to c3, bishop to d5, supporting the e6 square now. Then we have bishop to e3, threatening bishop takes h6, and we have king h7, pawn takes e6, bishop takes e6, knight takes e6, rook takes e6, and now black has somehow managed to survive this attack. This is a very good defensive technique, guys. Bishop f8 and king h7, and then bishop d5. These three moves are very excellent moves, very nice moves to make sure that everything is defended on the king side. I think black should survive this attack and will get some counter attack very soon. So bishop to d4, pawn to f5, e takes f6, queen takes queen, pawn takes, and pawn takes f6. I think this is a very good square now. This is a good passer for black. Black has to just maintain this pawn structure. Soon there will be g4 break coming, but black has to take care of that. So g4, king to g6, bishop to e3, bishop to c5, rook to d5, bishop takes e3, rook takes e3, and now rook to e8. So this pawn has to be defended very well if black wants to win here. King to g1, rook to e5, rook takes, and king moves to f2. King moves to g5. Idea would be to put the king on this good square of f4, and once this king reaches f4, there is no one. I think, yeah, there is a pawn there which can kick it out, but g4 is hanging again. So king, okay, rook h3. I think king g3 was on the cards to support this pawn, but rook h3 was played. After rook takes, king takes g4 is played, rook takes h6, king to g5, rook to h8, rook to e6, king to e3, pawn to f5, and I think this connected passes is going to give a very good position for black. Black, actually it was a draw. Okay, let's quickly go to that position. What happened? Let's check. So king to e6, e3, and then we have rook to f8. So rook to f6, rook check, king moves. I think this okay, king to f5, f4. This, I think this f4, king to f4 is something which will put pressure on these pawns. And here I think this move should have been played, probably rook to g6. If rook comes back to f8, or okay, so rook g6, I think rook a6 is on the cards. Then we can play rook takes g2, king takes e5, rook takes b3, king takes e4, and I think white would be in a better position as his king is nearer to the pawns to defend both of these. Okay, so yeah, so rook g6 is not playable. So king to h7, rook to g3, rook to f8, rook to g4, g5, king h6, rook to g3. Hold on. Okay, so rook takes f5 is not possible because rook takes f5, king takes f5, and e3 will be winning for black. Hence, the rook was retracted back to g3. Rook to f7, rook to e3, king to g6, g4. Pawn takes, king takes, and now rook goes to f2. Rook takes pawn. Rook takes b2 and rook check. I think yeah, this is going to be a draw now. Yep, this is a draw. And that's how it happened. Let's go back to tournament. Meanwhile, there are a few questions. Let me check the questions. Okay, so English is good as well as Hindi. Okay, thanks, Aksham. How to watch this tournament on LiChess app? So, Mr. Ferris, this tournament is you can click, you can check the tournament. You can join our WhatsApp group actually. There's a link given in the description box. You can join our WhatsApp group. In the WhatsApp group, you can get the link every day, and from that link, actually, you can watch the game in the app. Okay, so that's your answer. And Leech's app doesn't support team battles. Yeah, you can play the team battles in Leech's app, but joining is a bit difficult. It shows errors sometime when you're joining the team battles in the app, Leech's app. Let's go back and check the next game. Right now, Chess Blasters are leading with 58 points, 57 points by Khelo Chess India, neck to neck competition. Then we have Team Future on 57. Look at these scores, guys. 58, 57, 57. Just now, Chess Blasters have moved to 63, but very close battles going on. Then we have Gujarat Lions quickly catching up on the winners, and the race team RCCA, Golden Castle, Jamshedpur Team A, and Black Knights are playing. And let's check one of the games from Kavish Chotani. He's a very good player again from Khelo Chess India. Let's check if he's playing a game. Yeah, he's playing against Kaushal Vyas. Kaushal Vyas is from Gujarat Lions. So c4 was played as the first move. c4, d5, c takes d5, queen takes d5, knight c3, queen to d8, pawn to e4, pawn to e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5, bishop d6, queen b3. Okay, this is kind of a different opening, but it could be a reverse Sicilian. This is an English opening. It could act as a reverse Sicilian, and it can be similar structures. I think we can find a Sicilian defense from black side, wherein queen b6 is played from black side and bishop b4 is played. I think uh, Scaven engine or probably Sicilian Khan. I need to check that which lines are can this qualify for the opposite for the reverse Sicilian. So bishop to d7, pawn to d3, pawn to h6, bishop to c4. F7 is now hanging. So queen e7 defends the f7 square, queen to b7, rook to b8, queen to a3. Let me just check if there is any mating move here. Is there a check and mate, or can the queen get trapped? I think this queen is in a bad position. So rook b6 will be followed by either queen to a4. I think queen a4 is the only square remaining there. Yep, queen a4 is the only square remaining. And then we have this knight b4 also possible. Okay, so I think this should have been, so knight b4 if we play straight away here, then queen takes a7 is playable, right? Yeah, so this queen has to be trapped somehow. Actually, we should just check if this queen can be trapped. So knight f6 was played, knight d5, knight takes d5, pawn takes d5, knight to b4, queen takes a7, and castles. Yep, let's go back. I think that gave me some idea here. So this was the position, and if knight b4, queen a7, castles can be played here, and then this queen is in bit of in the spot of bother actually, because rook a8 and rook b8 will be the white won this game. But let's go back to that queen trap position. This is where the queen takes b7, rook takes b8. Yeah, I think knight f6 and now knight d5. Yeah, knight f6, knight d5. Okay, so queen might get trapped if the castles has been played now. So knight takes, pawn takes, knight to b4, queen takes a7, rook castles, and now castles, rook 8, queen to e3. So a safe passage for the queen. I think bishop e5, bishop c5 should have been played first. Queen takes c7 and then rook c8, queen to a4. There are a lot of squares where this queen is able to escape right now. So this queen is very lucky right now. So rook to a8, queen e3, knight to c7, queen e2, knight takes a1, bishop to e3, f5, rook takes a1, pawn to f4, bishop to d2, pawn to g5. Look at this attack. Okay, knight to e1, queen to f6, pawn to f3. No, black should continue this attack. Black should not go to queen side now. So black went to queen side and probably paid the price for this game. Bishop c3, bishop c5 check, d6 check should not be allowed. This bishop was a bad piece. Bishop d6, yep. So bishop to b4, b5, bishop, rook to d1, bishop takes c4, pawn takes c4, rook to e8, supporting this pawn. Knight to d3, attacking it with thrice now. All these three pieces. Defending is also by the three pieces, so nothing to worry about for the black. Queen e7, knight to f2, and knight to e4 is going to be a very good square for this knight. So rook to, even now actually black can just go to the king side, king h8, and just try to push the pawns, get a better attack here. So rook to b8, knight to e4, knight rook to b3, queen to c2, rook b8 again. So black is just wasting the moves and attacking and requesting his opponent to attack here. So queen to g7, pawn to c5, bishop to f8, and now I think white would be very happy because of these two pawns, advanced pawns, and this pawn structure actually. So queen f6. Okay, so here actually bishop takes c5. No, it's not possible because of knight takes c5. This b pawn is pinned right now, so it cannot capture c5. So right now, but this knight is supporting. If this knight moves, then bishop can capture the c5 pawn. So queen f6, a free queen, and I think that should be the game for black. This was a position where the black blundered his queen. Okay. Instead of that, what can be played here from black side? I think g4 is still a considerable move. G4 and g3. Okay, so g4 if pawn takes, then queen takes probably, and then we have bishop takes e5. Then f3 can be played. Yep, I think g4 is a considerable move here. It's not a bad move, it's a considerable move. Yep, g4. But queen f6 is a blunder which no one should play in their games, and that's why the black lost here. Let's go back, guys, and check the next games. Let's check who is leading right now. Khelo Chess India has squeezed to the second position, and all the top three teams are top four teams actually. Look at this 66, 65, 65, and 64. It's getting very close, neck to neck competition going on in all the four best teams right now playing in this tournament. Then let's go back and check the next games from the top tables. We have this Pranay playing from Gujarat Lions versus Louis from Team Future. Let's check what happened in the opening. E4, G6, and knight F3, bishop G7, bishop C4, pawn E6, knight C3, knight E7, castles, pawn to D5, pawn takes, bishop to b3. I think this bishop is going to be a dead bishop for remaining of his life. Castles, pawn to d4, pawn to c6, pawn to e3, knight to f5, pawn to h3, rook to e1. Now the e3 is in danger. So bishop f4, queen to b6. This was attacked thrice, guys, with the queen, with the bishop, and with the knight. Okay, so to defend it, bishop e4 was played. I think knight d7 is a good move, threatening this knight takes d4, e5. So bishop takes g7, king takes g7, queen to d2, knight to f6, and this knight will sit happily on e4 square if allowed. If not, then this knight can go to d6, and both knights can sit on e4 and support each other. So rook to e1, bishop d7 supporting this rook now from a8. Then knight to e2, we have knight to e4, queen is attacked, so queen f4. And now a5, this bishop is going to be trapped, so c3 will be played now. Here pawn c3, pawn to a4, pawn bishop goes to b2, c2, and now queen b2 is allowed, queen takes b2, bishop takes e4, rook takes e4. And I think there was a threat of, okay, so queen is under attack. So right now, yeah, queen has to be moved. So queen moves, but this e2 knight is hanging. Rook takes e2, queen takes d7, rook takes e1, rook takes e1, and queen takes c3. Now, this knight e5 was supposed to be played, but this knight is supporting the rook so that this queen cannot capture the rook. So what did white play? White captured the pawn on b7, rook to a5, queen to c7, rook to b5, and this is the current live position of the game. So I think rook has to be moved soon from this e1 square if white wants to get some good attack. Probably rook e8 can be played, or rook e5 is not a good move. Okay, so actually rook e8 is played in the game. That's nice. Meanwhile, all the viewers out there, if you have any questions, put in the comment section. I would be happy to answer all your questions. Hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the like button. And if you are not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. It keeps me motivated. Queen c1 check is played in between now. Interesting turn of events. There is a mate on h1, and meanwhile, white has just managed to give this check. But how can he stop this queen h1 move? I think it's unstoppable. I think it's unstoppable. Okay. No, this is not required. Okay, this is not required. Okay, just go back. Knight, sorry. Queen e1 is the move here. Queen e1 saves the mate, or even knight to e1. Knight e1 saves this mate. Yep, I think queen e1 or knight e1 should have been played to stop this check and mate actually. So queen e1 is not correct because then it allows queen to f4 check, pawn to g3, and queen takes knight can be played, and even rook takes queen is possible. So queen e1 is not the correct move. Knight to e1 probably can be played here. Knight e1 I think was one of the moves to defend the king. Queen e1 is a blunder. Sorry, queen e1 was not right. Knight e1 is the one which can help you to save the checkmate on h1 square. Let's go back to the tournament. Last 9 minutes remaining, guys. Who will win the battle? All are playing. Oh, Team Future has jumped 10 points from the second position. Gujarat Lions are reaching neck to neck for that first position today. Chess Blasters also catching up for the second position with 66 points. Khelo Chess India is on 65. So anything can happen in last 9 minutes now. Any one of these three teams can be second, third, or even first if they are on the money right now. So let's go and check the next game. We have okay. Let's check this game. The battle is between Narendra from Chess Blasters and Alavyaka from Team Future. So e4 was played, e4 c5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, Russell Limo variation. This move, bishop b5, is called as a Russell Limo variation. If I'm not wrong, you can correct me, guys. And then bishop takes c6, pawn takes c6, pawn to c3, bishop to g7, pawn to d6, knight to f6, bishop to g5, and pawn h6, bishop takes, bishop takes. This is not the way white should play actually. White is just playing uh not in the best way. He has given away both of his bishops. The bishops pair are gone now, and he has also given away the d3 square, d3 pawn, pawn to e5, bishop to g7, queen to b6, castles, and rook to d1, bishop to g4. Is there a tactic? Is there some tactic here? Nope. So pawn to h3, bishop takes f3, rook knight takes f3, queen to e4 check, king f1, and I think this is not the best position that white can have to win the game. This is just about survival now for white, just to survive and reach the end game if possible. Yep, that's a difficult situation to survive. But can white survive this one? That's a golden question here. Can white make such a move that his king is safe on h2 now, and both the rooks are connected, and he gets this? Black pawns are very vulnerable to attack. Of course, white pawns are also the weaknesses, but if the pawns are exchanged and king becomes safe on h2 and this rook comes into the game, then I think it would be an equal game. Not, I think queen d1 is not good now. Queen d1, king h2. Okay, it's still playable. Rook b1 check, king to h2, rook takes, king takes. So why would you exchange a passive rook on h1 actually? I'm not happy about this move. Look at this position. This rook is a passive rook and this is an active rook. So you're giving away your active rook for this passive rook. I'm not sure why someone would do that. If you have an active piece, maintain it on the board. Try to capture the pawn on a2. Just try to make sure you have a good attack on this square. So you can give this queen a2 check if you want, or even if you want, you can just try to bring your queen back to f5, or somewhere that you can develop this rook. Don't just allow this king to come and get your rook exchange with this passive rook. Okay, so check, king h2, rook takes, king takes, queen check, and queen takes a2, queen king to g3, queen to a5. This is the current position, guys. All the viewers out there, you can put your questions meanwhile. And e5 is still not hanging. So probably I think queen d5 is on the cards to be played now. This rook has to be activated. It's a passive piece currently. Yeah, queen d5 was played as expected. And now we have to guess a move from white side. Can white play this e6 move? I think yes, white can play this e6 move now. E6, f takes e6, knight takes e6, then the g7 would be hanging. But if e6, then bishop takes d4, c takes d4, queen takes d4, and pawn takes f7, queen takes rook takes f7. Yeah. Okay, so queen d6 has been played and offered a queen exchange. This exchange, I think, will be in black's favor, if I'm not wrong, because queen takes, pawn takes, and rook to d8. How is white going to save this pawn on d6? Even if we look in this way, so queen takes d6, e takes d6, and we have bishop takes d4, rook pawn takes d4, and rook to d8. So rook d8 was played straight away instead of exchanging the queens, but I think exchanging of queens was also in favor of black. Queen takes d5, c takes d5, and now black has got a better pawn position. If you look at these pawns on d5 and c4, they are supporting each other, and it could be a okay. So I think f5 is so pawn takes bishop is now playable, and after pawn takes bishop, or e takes f7 has to be played first, yes, or else f5 can put this pawn on e6 in the difficult situation. So e takes f7 first, king takes f7, and now pawn takes. But as I mentioned before, as black was able to solve this double pawn problem, these two pawns have become very strong now, and this a pawn is going to be the winning pawn for black. Yes, I think h5 is played now, but even though g4 is coming very soon, black has to go here and here as early as possible. Just try to get these pawns rolling very fast. Don't waste time. This rook has to go to b6, and now to rook to b3. Challenge this rook, and if rook moves, pawn push, pawn push, pawn push, pawn push, pawn push, and you should get a queen very soon. This king is very far away from this squares to control all this a1 square. It will be a very long journey for the king. That's what king is trying to make now. He's trying to come very soon, but black should be going for the rook exchange now. That's the the white king is in the game now. He'll just come and defend the rook, and then black has to start pushing this pawn. I'm not sure why white is going away from this queening squares. White should be coming near somewhere towards the center of this d2 and e2 squares. So that, yeah, now that's a problem. Actually, king on e2 or d2 would have been better now, or even on e3. This pawn would not have been hanging. Now this rook is tied down. This rook has to go to a3 now and try to capture this pawn. No, white has given away all his pawns. This is not the way white should have played. Yep. This, I think, will be an easy win for black now after that pawn is gone from the g5 square. Yeah, next move king will capture the g4 pawn, and there will be three passers for black. This is winning for black now. So all the viewers out there who are not aware how to play this ending, actually rook takes pawn was also possible. Yeah, king has gone to the d5 now. So all the players who are not aware how to use these two passers with the rook and king, this is the instructional endgame for you. You can just think how this black is going to win this one. Okay, you have to push the pawns, make sure that king is nearby the queening squares, which will help pawn to queen quickly. Rook could have just come back to d1 now, yeah, because just make sure that this king is been cut off from this pawns. Once that is done, this push is very easy with the help of king and this another pawn. Okay, only thing is that this king should not be allowed, so there should be a wall here by created by this rook. Yep, that's a win for black now, and there is no stalemate position as well. So let's go back to the tournament, guys. Check the next game. We just have last few seconds remaining to conclude the tournament. So let me just check out the questions right now. If there are any questions, okay. There are no questions today. So if you have any questions, guys, any doubts or anything that's in your mind that you want to ask, I will be happy to answer all of your questions. Make sure you hit the like button, all the viewers out there. I cannot see many likes out there. I would be happy if you like the video. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. I think this is will be the final standings for today. Let's just wait for last 10 seconds to get the final standings. And that's it, guys. Team Future has won today. Team Future is from Sri Lanka. They have won with 87 points. And look at this closed game. Gujarat Lions on second place with 84 points, just 3 points behind the top team. Anything could have happened in the last few seconds, but it's a Team Future who have emerged to be the winners. We have Alawiaka from Team Future with 36 points, leading from the Team Future as well as leading from the individual point of view. So, congratulations, Alawiaka. We have Gujarat Lions on second place, Pranay with 22 points. Congratulations, Pranay, to lead from your team. You have finished on second place with 84 points. Then we have Khelo Chess India, Gavish Chotani. Congratulations, Gavish, to score 27 points and lead our team to 75 points. A good performance today by Khelo Chess India. Last few days they were ranking very low, 5th, 6th, and 7th, but today they have shown their true game and they have ranked third today. So, congratulations, Khelo Chess India. Then we have Chess Blasters today, just slipping below by a few points. They were in the race to come first, but just slipping below by a few points in the last few minutes. And then we have RCCA. Anish Naik, congratulations from Chess Blasters to score 77 points. Then we have RCCA, that is Richmond College of Chess Association from Sri Lanka. We have Kuki Kiran scoring 16 points and team ending on 55. Then we have Rays Rishi Singh on 18 with 55 points. Golden Castle Chess Club on RMIL India Linda with 22 points and team finishing on 51. Jamshedpur Team A, Maverick AP007 leading the team with 13 points, and the team score is 41, finishing on the 8th position. Then we have Black Knight in Jail Chess Assassin 8 points, and we have 22 as the final score. Kolkata Dragons, I am really disappointed that no one played from your team. There were other teams who were waiting for this position. We could have given that chance to other teams. So tomorrow we may have to consider your entry. If not, so all the players out there who are listening and all the team leaders out there, you have to send your entries as early as possible and make sure minimum 4 players are playing in your team. So that's all from today's video, guys. Please hit the like button if you're watching right now, subscribe to the channel, and share with your friends as much as possible. There are a lot of technical videos which you can watch. It will help you to improve your game on our channel, and we meet every day at 9:30 p.m. I am happy to solve all your queries. You can just have to put in the comment section whatever your queries are. We will also analyze your games if you are playing this tournament, and if you are giving your leeches ID, I'll be definitely analyzing your game live on the channel. You make sure you join our WhatsApp group. Description box below there is a link. You can just click on that and join our WhatsApp group so that you get this updates daily, every day, right in your mobile, right in your hand, and you don't have to go anywhere. Chess is coming to you. You don't have to travel, you don't have to do anything. Okay, so that's all from our side, guys, from Khelo Chess India. This is Ameya Sawan, your host, signing off for today. Wishing you a very good night and safe night. Stay at homes, be safe, keep your all the family members safe. We will meet tomorrow again at 9:30 p.m. Bye bye and good night and take care.